So the police just came to my door and it said that my dog was chasing a kid on his bike. I just closed the door. My dog doesn't even have a bike. So
that's a good one.
Thank you. So so the reason I brought that joke into the mix here was because we have a very special guest from the police department. In fact, the chief of the police department, Chief Chad Kasmar. Thanks for coming in, brother.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I wanted to start off with a brief introduction for our guest today, if that's okay.
Go for it, brother.
Okay. All right. So this was from an Arizona Daily Star article from Caitlin Schmidt. This is from December 27th, 2021. And it's just a few paragraphs of it. Okay. So it says, Kasmar grew up in Tucson and is a graduate of Amphitheater High School and the University of Arizona. He began working at TPD, Tucson Police Department, in 2000 and spent his 7 years as an officer on assignments, including patrol in the Midtown Division, bicycle patrol, solo motor patrol in Operations Division South, and on a hostage crisis team. He was promoted to sergeant in 2007 and lieutenant in 2011, taking command at TPD's Office of Internal Affairs and Operations Division West. He worked as a captain from 2014 through 2016, serving as chief of staff to the then Chief Robert Villasenor and as patrol division captain for Operations Division East. When Magnus was hired as TPD's chief in January 2016, he promoted Kasmar to chief deputy, a position he held until January 2021, when he was tapped by city manager Mike Ortega to serve as interim director of the Public Safety Communications Department. There, Kasmar led the charge to consolidate fire and police operations within the 911 center, restructured the department and leadership team, and increased staffing levels. He said the experience gave him a fresh perspective. And then shortly thereafter, chief of police. Yeah, yep. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Chad, can you start by saying your last name for me?
Yeah, Kasmar.
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 Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I got this Kasmar from Pink Bike stuck in my head. You ever watch Pink Bike?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mike Kasmar.
Yeah.
So I have that.
I like their videos.
Make sure I'm not screwing up your
they're so good.
name there. Yep. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming. It's Sunday afternoon on the MCP here. I appreciate you coming out and spending a little time with us. I'd love to start by just kind of like hearing about how you got started in cycling and like what's your relationship with the bike.
Yeah, so I fell in love with. I in fact have a picture on my phone of my dad, who was a big guy, 6'5", hunched over, helping me on my bike with tricycle, wheels. It was blue and yellow, and probably some Kmart special or something. But I fell in love with cycling as a young boy, and it was freedom. And back then, you checked in with your parents in the morning and you said, I'll be back for lunch, and you were gone. So I was
till the street lights came.
Yeah, it was freedom and a way to connect and a way to, get a couple miles across town. So I, much like a lot of people in our community, I grew up in a divorced family, and there were pros and cons to that. When I was 2, my parents separated, and for a variety of reasons and challenges, like again, most folks here in our community. And so the bike was just a sense of freedom, whether I was at my mom's house or at my dad's house on the weekends. And I really never stopped with that sense of freedom. And as an adult, through a 23-year career in public safety, it's become much more than that. And there's a lot of, space in between those, being a 2 or 3 year old to, being 22 and starting a career in public safety, and now having been doing that for 23 years. But now it's much more. It's my mental health and wellness. I'm not healthy mentally or physically if I don't spend enough time on my bike. Mm-hmm. The staff at work doesn't like it when I'm not riding my bike, and my wife and kids don't like it either. So yeah, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, so what's your favorite style of riding these days?
I love both. In fact, we were just talking. So
there's only 2?
Yeah, no, there's a lot. I love it all. The problem, as we've gotten older, gravity, you have a deeper appreciation for gravity and crashing, and we don't heal as quick as we used to. But
for sure.
I live off of near River and La Cañada, part of town. So I do a lot of my road cycling north or I'm grabbing the loop and heading up to Mount Lemmon, or I like to hit the BR ride on Saturdays. It's been a long time since I was doing the shootout or the old man shootout. I love that ride too. So let's start with road cycling. What I love about road cycling, and I got my first road bike as a freshman in college.
Yep.
Ralph over at Fairwell sold me my first carbon bike, and my dad thought he was going to have to take a mortgage out to pay for that carbon trek. And it was probably an entry level one, but it was big money back then. I mean, more than my dirt bikes had cost. And I grew up racing dirt bikes through high school and even early college. But I wanted to get serious about enduro racing and cross country. So I met up with Scott Blanchard from Pyramid Coaching back in the day. And he was like, hey, bud, you're going to have to get a road bike. And little did I know you'd spend 80% of your time on a road bike training for mountain biking. So I had the riding skills from racing dirt bikes for so many years.
Yep.
But I didn't have the cardio. And so that's what was tough to come by. And as we all know, it's cumulative, right? So now I've been serious, on and off serious cyclist for, since my freshman year of college. So that's 27 years ago. And so I've got quite the base, right? So I can go out cold and suffer with the best of them. I've got a pretty good hurt locker. Like this morning when I was out on Mount Lemmon, and I hadn't ridden much the last few weeks, but it was a beautiful sunrise watching up. And then I got a buddy getting ready to go out to, two buddies getting ready to go race Leadville.
Yeah, we're actually going out to support one of the guys from
Outstanding.
Tucson.
Yeah, I raced in 2011, I think it was.
We saw that.
And so fortunately for me, I got it one and done and got that big belt buckle and haven't had to go back. Because
you made the cutoff.
Yeah, It's a part-time job to train for that race. It's 20 hours a week on the bike. And,
for sure.
And Scott had us there were 3 other police officers that we did it together, 4 of us. And we were riding, 20 hours a week, 250 miles a week, and we were doing back to back. So we would do like a Mount Lemmon Epic on a Friday, which is, if you've never done that, is you start at Einan Oracle on a mountain bike and you ride north up to the town of Oracle, up the backside, down the front, back to Einan Oracle. It's about 108 miles. And then you do the shootout on Saturday.
That's called the Mount Lemmon Epic?
Mount Lemmon Epic, yeah.
How many miles is that?
It's 108 miles. And it's not bad until you get into the summer, which you're training right now in the summer for Leadville. Yeah. And so you're just, I'll tell you, well, I don't know if you want to jump into that story, how that all happened.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Kind of jump all around.
Okay. So I was an undercover sergeant at the time. And let's see. So my oldest son, Chase, would have been about 7-8 years old at the time. And we had just had our second son, and I just tested for lieutenant. I had decided, okay, I've had enough fun assignments. I need to start being home more at night and on the weekends. Yep. And so I decided to put the family first. So my phone rang. I was still in the undercover squad, and my buddy Mark called me and said, hey man, there's this race called Leadville, and it's a lottery, and we probably won't get in, but I need your credit card number because four of us are putting in for it. And I was like, all right, I was in the middle of something. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So, I give my credit card, and a few months go by, and my wife calls me at work, and she was like, hey, what's this $400, $385 charge to the Leadville 100? Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No. I
said, get the fuck out of here. We made it. We got in. And she said, you got into what? And then I realized I was in deep trouble because I had
how much time?
I had not asked for permit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The millionth, we had, at that point, I can tell you about my wife's amazing. So at that point we had been married, 11 years and together about 14. So she asked for this crazy life. She knew what she was getting into.
Right.
But she was super cool about it. But she was like, do you really think this is a good time? Cause she knew it wasn't just the $400 entry fee. It was a new bike. It was training with Scott again for 6 months and her not seeing me, or those days where you're doing those, 100+ mile rides in this heat.
Yeah.
And then you're smoked the rest of the day. If you're no good to anyone, you're basically like Bob Dylan. So, but she was a trooper, and it ended up being, like a lot of things in life, the race is the race, which you have zero control over that day, the weather, a mechanical, you were there with 2,000 people, and it was the coolest, most chaotic race I've ever been involved with. And Lifetime Fitness puts on amazing events. If your listenership hasn't done one, you should sign up for one. Super professional. But the thing about it that year was, if you were a rookie racer in that series and you didn't qualify, you have to start in the back.
Yeah, in the back row.
And it was mayhem. I thought, it's an endurance race, so everybody's going to start out pretty chill and ease into it. I was redlined for the first hour, like a sprint MBAA race. I mean, it was nuts.
Wow.
Just to get to the first hill where if you're not there fast enough, you have to walk.
Stuck. Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to walk. So, but what turned out into a funny story of like her being super pissed at me, like a lot of crazy things I've done and continue to do, which I think is what makes our marriage fun.
Nice.
It turned out into the most epic, training journey. The guy that one of the guys that I race with, they're all great guys, but one of them specifically, Mark Fuller, is a retired Tucson Police Department sergeant. His wife actually trained me when I was a brand new sergeant, and that's how I met them, Carrie Fuller, and then we joke now that I was Carrie's friend first, and then Mark found me and stole me from Carrie. But Mark and I have done thousands and thousands and thousands of miles together, and and he's just been such a great older brother type role model for me, and just somebody to bounce things off of. And hell, I joke with him, I should pay him counseling services because I'm a talker and he's a good listener. So we have this amazing relationship. But the journey, it was, the race was a big deal and it was fun that day. But when I look back on it, it was more about the journey to get there. It was a sacrifice my family made. It was the bonding that Mark and I and Jim and our buddy Brandon did. And the teasing and camaraderie and just the build up to it is the big deal. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't get, especially like, look, if you're a young, a young athlete and you're training to be pro, that's great. And I hope that they could even figure out that it's a journey, and to enjoy that. So it doesn't become, you don't have to dread putting your leg over your bike. That's such a sad thing. But it was just such an honor to train with my buddies and then go do that event. And then it happened to be really cool that the event worked out well, and I made my marks that day and worked through a lot of suffering.
2011. So 2009 was Lance. Yeah. 2010 Race Against the Sky came out.
Yeah.
2010 Levi Leipheimer won. And then it comes into 2011. That race had never been bigger at that point. It had to have been just a circus.
It was a circus. And Mark's wife, Carrie, took the perfect photo of us where there's just imagine 2,000 people plus all their support. So and you're in this little mining town. And that's really what, I don't know if a lot of people know, that race really saved that town.
It's about, bringing
and so it's
tourism.
It's, it's super cool. It's like, you can't get into a restaurant. It's organized mayhem, but we were leaning up against a wall, just hanging out, and Carrie snapped this photo that I have in my office. And it demonstrates all four of us are very different people and different personalities. And this moment in time and this picture captured like all of our personalities at that moment of, who was worried, who was having fun,
You could see it.
Which one were you? Where were you at?
No, I'm a race day guy. I've always done, even back to, I used to ride dirt bikes. Dirt bikes kept me out of a lot of trouble. That was the tool that my dad leveraged over me to behave. Mm-hmm. Half my friends went to prison, and half my friends became cops. And I probably would have been in prison if it weren't for dirt bikes.
So your dad like encouraged and helped out with the dirt bike scene.
Oh yeah, he never bought me and he could afford it. He never bought me the latest and greatest. He made me work for it. He made me do all the wrenching on the bikes. So that's where I learned how to wrench on things, which turned into then, later in life, me taking auto body and auto shop in high school, and then turned into me, remodeling houses and flipping houses. And to this day, in fact, my oldest son and I, we have a 900 square foot shop in our backyard. We're wrenching on his truck. And then I was, tinkering with, a couple other things. I just picked up I'm an old truck guy. So I just picked up a 75 Ford F-100 custom super cab.
Oh, wow.
That I'm going to be, restoring and tricking out.
How bad a shape's it in?
Oh, it is like a barn find. It was an older gentleman a grandfather who had just gone through the motor, had just put brand new beef Goodrich all trains on it, and then got sick and they parked it, and it's been sitting there 23 years.
No way.
And so his family finally got to the point where like, okay, sentimental value, like we got to move this thing. But it was up in Phoenix, just baking in the sun. So it's got a perfect patina. It's the Vineyard Gold model.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's super cool. So I've got a 75 short bed, orange, big block 460, big nasty motor, slammed street truck. I've got a 94 Ford Explorer, 4-wheel drive that my son and I during COVID, my oldest son and I did a auto shop in the house at the shop since he couldn't have it at school.
Cool.
And we did it was like, $500 auction car that we bought, took the basically frame off restoration on it, built it into a little rock crawler. And then he moved on to a Ford Mustang, so I took the Explorer back. My little guy Deegan, who's 13, says that's going to be his first car. So yeah, we like to tinker and stay busy.
That's cool.
So your dad, like, there was a method to it. He knew what he was doing when he bought you, didn't get the latest and greatest.
Oh yeah,
made you work on the bikes. And now you're passing that along to your kids. That's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely spoil, this new generation of kid. I think we all, it's generational, right?
Yep,
so our kids have a little bit easier lives probably than we did with our parents. And I think that's every parent's aspiration, to make their kids' lives better and be a little more a better parent than they were,
Are we making them soft though? That's the risk, right?
Yes, I think we are. Yeah. And so I certainly recognize that, but it's hard. Your kids are great. You don't want them to not have things. And
it is tough. All right. So speaking of kids, you mentioned that your kids are very good on bikes. And then, our kids are good on bikes as well. They don't try. They're good at it.
Yeah.
So you grew up on the dirt bike, and the last recording we released,
last podcast we put out,
was air awareness.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you probably gained air awareness as a youngster on the motocross.
Yeah, I did. They all, my buddy Paul, who was the creator and owner of Oro Valley Bikes, he jokes with me like that, I'm never on the ground. So if I see a rock and I can jump and then turn, 30, 40 degrees in the air and land a different, way,
one of those
you
guys.
skip 3 rocks, then that's what I'm all
so
about.
moto whips and all that with the mountain bike.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So then how did you go from the dirt bike scene where you throttle, no pedaling, to wanting to do the mountain bike?
You crash a lot.
Okay, so that was
okay. Yeah, in fact, I remember my one of my first dates with my wife Dawn. I was like, okay, I got to get this training right in, and so I went out to Star Pass, and there was this. This was back when there were barely houses on the kind of west end out the back end.
For sure.
And there was this double out there, and I thought I'm going to hit that double today, and of course I didn't scope it out or do anything. And I cased that thing and about took half my face off and showed up to the first date with, hamburger face.
The first date?
Yeah. So again, I go back to, she knew what she was getting herself into.
Right from the jump.
She asked for this crazy life. So the biggest thing is learning that you just can't blip your throttle to get you out of trouble, and you have to carry that momentum. So it is different, but it is similar. Mm-hmm. It is similar as well. And then there's clips, right? And I love clips. So I took to clipless pedals pretty quick and
really
being attached.
Still, are you still riding them even on a mountain bike?
Oh yeah, really? Yeah. It's so much more efficient. The push and pull, like, it feels very foreign to me if I try to ride a bike without it. And I'm, we do Sedona every year, and full commitment on some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah, Highline and all that.
Yeah, you can get out. I mean, when you've been riding long enough and you need to get out of those clips, you get out.
You get good at it.
You do.
All right. So you mentioned the training on the road bikes and that, and then it's funny if you. Google Chief's name and mountain bikes, you've got the Leadville, that's still there, right? And then also, very impressive, the Tour de Tucson. I think 1 year, 13th place.
Last year, yeah, I did the 66. I will say I got lucky. Again, road cycling is a chess game, and it's about being strategic and where you position yourself. I had not been riding much, and some buddies got me, some local business community wanted me to do the prologue, which I was able to do, and super epic.
Nice.
And then I thought, I'm going to do the 66 too. And so what happened was, 3 of the larger teams had guys that went off in the first 2 minutes. And so that really kept all of the work really moderate through so nobody could really go crazy. I mean, there were one-offs and, small teams that kept trying to push the pace, but your bike ranch and your natural grocers and a couple of other big teams, Christian cycling,
pulled it all back.
They wouldn't do the work. They were keeping it at a certain pace. So I'd actually ended up doing a fair amount of work, just to keep the tempo fun. And, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and thought I had a little left in the tank to suffer. Mm-hmm. What the funny part though was, how the finish was a different spot this year, right by the police station. I thought when we went around the corner, I can't remember, was it not church, convent or something, and I thought as soon as we hit the corner, it's going to be the finish line. So I was tapped by the time we made
it's
the
like
left.
Another 400 yards.
It was another 400 yards, yeah. So I lost a few spots in that last 400 yards. So I was like, what? So,
hey, reconcile something for me. Okay, so I'm hearing about, chief of police.
Yeah.
Your illustrious career with the police department there. I'm hearing about you working on cars and flipping houses and mountain biking and motocross. And I'm trying to reconcile the fine arts degree.
Yeah.
Help me understand that.
Yeah. So,
where does that
you're
fit?
not the only one. Yeah. So it's funny, when I was in college, I knew I wanted to do something. So my original plan was to do officer candidate school for the Marine Corps, ROTC. And then once I got out of college, but while getting a fine art degree. And then once I got out of college, college, then, Marine Corps, then I wanted to do DEA or FBI or do some, I was really looking at the undercover style work was a draw to me.
Yep.
So, my sophomore year, so let me even backtrack a minute because it kind of all intertwines here. So in 1996, I graduated from Amphi High School, and I thought, I'm going to be a lifeguard. It sounds like a cool job, right? Like hang out with, other young people and girls in bathing suits and swim with kids all day. Like I'm in, and it was like $675. And I was like, that's
good
amazing.
money. That's good money back then.
Now, a lot of lifeguards back then were swimmers, right? They were on the swim team and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually went to high school in San Diego for 3.5 years because my stepdad had gotten a job when I graduated from 8th grade. And so the family said, hey, do you want to stay in Tucson or do you want to go to San Diego? And I was like, Dad, I'll be back in the summers. First year, it was actually, I only spent one summer in San Diego. So my stepdad and I, the summer before my freshman year of high school, went out to San Diego and Mission Valley together.
Yeah.
And, you, as a parent, you look back and you think like, what the hell were my parents thinking? So my stepdad would drop me off at Mission Beach every day at like 6 a.m. and pick me up at 6 p.m.
Nice.
And I'm still alive today, which is a miracle.
Yes.
And, but the beautiful part of that, right? Like life was different back then, is I learned how to surf in the summer and surfing became a big passion. But every summer beyond that, I came back and spent it with my dad and saw all my school buddies and all that stuff. So anyhow, fast forward, I thought, well, if I was a surfer, I could not drown in the ocean. I can certainly swim in a pool. So I took all the tests, I passed. So that's when I actually met my wife. Was going to Catalina Magnet here off of Pima. And she was going to be, it was a summer before her senior of high school. She had a longtime boyfriend. I was getting ready to go to college. So she was cute. I flirted with her, all that good stuff, but I wasn't looking to settle down, and she was in a relationship. So fast forward, we worked together at Amphi High School that summer. Mm-hmm. Then the next summer, we also worked together. And then what happened was, this is pre-cell phone, so it dates all of us, right?
Yeah.
I wish we still had those days, pre-cell phone.
Yeah, likewise.
And I was going up for officer candidate school testing up to Phoenix. So I called her parents.
This is for the Marine Corps.
For the Marine Corps. Yep. So sophomore year of college at U of A. So I call her parents and I'm like, hey, I worked with your daughter. Could I get her number? Because she was going up to ASU as a freshman. And I joke with people like, the biggest, the best thing the city ever gave me was opportunity to meet my wife, even as chief of police and as a director of the N1 Center. But I also tell everybody I rescued my wife from making the worst mistake of her life and graduating from ASU. Because seriously, who looks good in maroon and gold? But I go up there to do the testing. Bad news was I figured out I had a couple blown out, bad disc from either a bad car wreck I had been involved in or dirt bike racing. Who knows which one?
Yep.
But I spent that weekend with my to-be wife, and we started dating. That lunch turned into a dinner, turned into a weekend, turned into her coming back to Tucson after her freshman year of college up at ASU.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
all right. So fine arts. We're going to get there some.
So I'm sorry. I know
good.
there's
You're
all
good.
these.
No, it's good.
Hard to weave all this
You're
stuff.
Taking this on the journey.
Yeah. So work with me, follow me. You can tell I have a lot of energy. This is me, by the way, not on caffeine.
He's just drinking. For the record, he's just drinking water over there.
Just drinking water. Yeah.
And rode up Mount Lemon this morning already.
Yeah, I've been up since 4 and getting it done. So I have a lot of energy.
That is energy.
But the way my life worked out was like, okay, what am I going to do now that I can't? My plan A didn't work out, and so I thought, well, at the time, one of my best friends from elementary school, who I was living with in college, two buddies, Jason Bentley and Randy Suter, who's also a business owner and a phenomenal athlete and cyclist, Randy Suter over at Old Pueblo Gymnastics.
Yep.
So we were all childhood friends from kindergarten, and we were living together. And I was thinking, man, what am I going to do? So Jason's dad was a TPD sergeant at the time. He said, hey, you guys are juniors now, sophomore to juniors. You got to test. You're not going to get in the first time, but you should probably test. And I tested. So at that time, I was not telling all of my, fine art, peers that I was going to be a cop or go to the Marine Corps, obviously. And then fast forward, I got a job offer. And I thought at that point, Dawn and I were engaged. We owned our first house here in Tucson together that we were remodeling. And And I thought, man, I'm ready to get my life started. And it was probably the one time I really listened to my dad after not wanting to hear him, but I listened to him. And he was like, hey, if the PD wants you, they're going to let you finish school. So my junior year, I accepted the offer to TPD, and I postponed I had 1 year, which meant, full load, winter, summer session. So I ended up walking and winter. So I took, I had to take classes everywhere, but I ended up walking in May of 2000, but I had a few classes to finish up. So I finished up summer school, got my diploma, mid-month in August of 2000 on a Wednesday. I got married that Saturday. I started the police academy 2 weeks later.
That's a great 2 weeks.
It was a busy 2 weeks. I told my wife for like the first 3 years of our marriage, life was going to slow down. And then I stopped because I figured out it was never going to slow down.
And it hasn't since?
It really hasn't. It has not.
Yep. Very cool. All right. So one more race I want to talk about, which I thought, and then maybe we can lead into, that'll take us into some of the kind of the connection with the community and law enforcement and things like that. If that's cool. Yep. Okay. So you mentioned the 24-hour race that you've done for years, and I love the headline from, I think it was 2019. It's called Call the Cops, 24 Hours in the Old Pueblo, Tucson Police Department. And I think your team was, you remember the name? Thin Blue Line?
Yeah.
Yep. And you had a nice quote in there about celebrating officer wellness.
Yep.
Kind of bringing that to the forefront on bicycles, of course. And the other piece that I thought was really neat in there, which Josh, I know you've got in your notes here, is the part about, I think, I can't remember his name, but he gave you guys donated jerseys for Look, Save a Life.
Yeah. Brendan Lyons, okay. Look, Save a Life, great sponsor. I've known Brendan for quite a few years, and he's always avid supporter of public safety, and it's a nice marriage. I've helped him out on a few things just to create awareness for cycling safety. It hits close to home to me. I've been blessed, on knock on wood here, that I've I won't say I've never crashed a road bike, but the ratio of my crashing and miles that I put down is good. And a few years into retirement, actually within the first year of retirement, Carrie Fuller, the sergeant I told you about, she worked up 20 years to be able to retire, and then retires, and she's on her road bike, and I got the call that you never want to get, which is Carrie's been hit by a car. And from a friend of a friend. And, at the time we couldn't track her. Her husband was also out riding bikes, and, I was at work, downtown. And so I took off to, Carrie had been hit on old Sunrise up there. Mm-hmm. And what happened was a lady was going to turn in off of the main drag into a neighborhood, and it was a gate. It was like a retirement home. And she reached up to hit the visor control, and her arm blocked the view of Carrie, and she made the left turn, and she hit Carrie head on. Well, she was doing about 15, 20, and Carrie was doing, probably 20, 30. And so she took Carrie over the hood, and Carrie had catastrophic injuries. And so as for a police officer, it's interesting that, when you're working and you get sent to the hospital for a collision victim, if they don't show up quickly, that's not a good sign. And so I was at the hospital for some time, and she wasn't showing up, and I thought, no, man, maybe it's going to turn into a fatal. And so, certainly, she did survive, and she's had a pretty crazy recovery with a lot of hardware, but she definitely inspires me that she doesn't ever give any excuses to this day. She's, to get out on her bike, and she's still getting it done.
She's still riding. She's still getting it done.
Oh yeah. She's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So that kind of leads us into like one of the topics I want to talk about, kind of like the relationship between cars and bikes here in Tucson, and like, your thoughts on, a handful of questions. So we'll start with like, what can our cyclists do to avoid accidents?
Yeah. So you got to be smart. I mean, there's difference from commuting on a bike, I think, through town at any given part of the day versus when you're going to try to get out to get your workout on or in, right? And those are very different things. So I try to get my workout done first thing in the morning. It's not always possible. So I have a couple different routes that I'll go do, intervals or in a residential area, so there's less traffic. So it's really just about mitigating the potential. So higher volume of cars, higher risk of getting struck. Yep. Right. And you're a tire. So if you're, if you're going to ride with music, which I like to do, I never have more than one earbud in. So that for twofold, one, I want to hear those tires squealing or braking if it's a vehicle or if it's my own.
Yep.
So just your situational awareness, your reflective clothing, whites, I have a black helmet, but road bike helmet, but white's better, so again, the more visible you are. I always have a flashing, just like this morning, even though it wasn't going to be dark, a nice flashing LED tail light just to draw awareness.
Right.
And then courtesy, right? So there's times where we by law can ride two abreast just about anywhere, but there's times where it's better not to. And so, I'm just like everybody else when I'm on my weekend, and I've certainly had a run in with quite a few, drivers that I've had to educate on the Arizona revised statute laws, which I enjoy doing. They have no idea who's yelling at them. But a lot of my buddies have the LED tail light that also has the camera, so we can capture those aggressive drivers. I will say, obviously I can make sure that my staff follows up on aggressive driver complaints, and the Pima County Sheriff's Department does a great job with it as well. But this morning we're riding up Mount Lemmon, and between some of the motorcycle community are great, and then other ones are jerks who are doing triple the speed limit up Mount Lemmon. And so there will be some deployments of TPD and Sheriff's Department motors up there in the future to catch people who, and that includes cyclists, right? We have to be careful too when we're descending and we're passing cars, and we're partially responsible for the attitude that people have with us. I try to be a good steward of both, and I can't say I don't ever roll a stop sign if nobody's around. But those are the things that really form and put a bad taste in people's mouth when they look at all cyclists. And you got to remember too, two guys might be cycling together and have words or have a total attitude with somebody in a car, but it doesn't mean that car later, that day, that week, that next month, then run into a solo cyclist or a young woman or a young adult or a teenager, and take out that frustration that they had with the previous two cyclists and a cyclist that had nothing to do with that. And we did have somebody pass us probably today. There was no reason for them to get this close, but within 12 inches, definitely not 3 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. In some places there's that tension. I think you kind of referenced between cyclists and motorists, right? And so I don't know, like as far as the community goes, like what we can do together
to like improve the relationship between motorists and cyclists. Yeah.
I think it's better than probably most people give us credit for. I mean, what we have to remember is this is not an easy town to get across. I mean, the arterial roads weren't built for over 1 million people in a major metropolitan of 500,000 major metropolitans, well over 1 million. And so everybody's just got to be a little bit patient. The loop is a great way as a cyclist to get across town.
That's a good idea.
Sure.
So definitely a big advocate of that. But if folks are riding, we don't have, I'm pleased to say we most of our collisions and fatalities, with, vehicles and cyclists aren't avid cyclists. They're either a commuter or somebody who didn't have a light, didn't have reflective clothing on, didn't have a helmet, or was intoxicated. So it certainly happens, but the percentage is pretty low here in town.
Typically, it's not an avid cyclist. Okay.
It typically is not.
Okay. So if it's all right.
No, go ahead.
If we do run across an aggressive driver, what's the right protocol as a cyclist to report it?
The best thing to do is to not engage. If everybody pulls over and you can get what I recommend, if there's more than two people and somebody's engaging with that person, then somebody else should have their phone out recording it. Get video. The video is the best thing. In fact, you can go to the TucsonPoliceDepartment.org or you just Google Tucson Police and it'll pull it up. But you can submit videos for aggressive drivers.
Oh, interesting.
So that's one way. And that's really, we'll follow up. And that tends to just be a communication like, hey, you were reported that you were aggressive. But it's a first step. If somebody's using their car to swerve at you or brake check you, like we've seen before, that becomes something different. And we can start looking at felony aggravated assault charges on those individuals. So it's a real deal. But here's what I would tell people is, COVID changed behavior, and we have a gun problem here in Tucson. Last year we had 870 non-fatal gun incidents.
Wow.
And spontaneous violence is on the rise across the country post-COVID, and it's certainly that way here too. And it includes juvenile. So, if you've got a car full of aggressive people, go turn around and go the other way. Get a snapshot of the plate, a quick photo where you can report it. But the best thing is just don't engage in conflict. Yeah.
That's interesting. The statistics since the pandemic that it's
changed.
No kidding.
Yeah, homicides used to really have a correlation that there was there was some known nexus. Either folks were in an intimate relationship, they were doing a drug deal, they were committing crime together, there was something. And those numbers have just radically changed, not just in our state or here in Tucson, but across the country post-COVID. So
interesting.
Shorter fuses.
Yeah. You were quoted also by Caitlin in that article from December 2021 is that you have, I'll start at the top here. We're not going to tolerate another year of 80 plus fatalities in our community.
Yeah. And then we promptly had almost 100. So that was a definitely rookie chief comment, and I promptly had to put my foot in my mouth.
Don't use numbers.
But I liked where you had priorities, right?
Yeah.
And there was a basis for that. You said you have more odds of being a victim from a vehicular accident, whether you're driving, pedestrian, or bicycle, than you do of being of a violent crime.
Yeah, you do. And so here's the thing. I mean, I live on the county city line, just in the county, all of my commerce is in the city, in the 05, and 4040 North Oracle is my wife's Target, my Boot Barn, my, all my automotive shops, my Home Depot, and my Chipotle, and all these different things. So, my oldest son is driving in the city. So, I definitely have all my family lives here in town. So it's personal for me. It's not just I'm the chief of police. It's that I care about, my officers who are out there, and it's risky and dangerous for them. Every shift that they have, it's, my family. I ride my bike through town. So yeah, it's an all hands on deck. And so, the point I was getting across, and I actually don't regret the comment, because I want people to know, every one of those numbers represents a family who isn't going to have that person home for the holidays. So, and it impacts the person who committed the offense. Yes. Although they may have criminal charges, that's something they have to deal with the rest of their lives. Left turners. Yeah, what I would tell, I'm an avid motorcycle rider to this day. I just got motor recertified, so I can ride motors with my officers occasionally. Oh, cool. And, whether you're on a bike or you're a pedestrian, or crossing the street, green doesn't mean go. You have to pay attention. There's so many distracted drivers with these dang phones and all the technology in vehicles. Yeah. And so, if you have kids and you're listening to this podcast, what I would tell is hope you have fun listening to a variety of my squirrel moments, but also get have that conversation with yellow means stop. It doesn't mean floor it. If you're going to make a left turn, make sure that thoroughfare is clear. My neighbor lost a nephew last year right by her house at River and La Cañada to a left turner, and it was a young woman who. I don't know ultimately who was at fault, but it doesn't really matter. It was, the motorcycle was going straight through the intersection. She was making the left turn. Yeah. So whether she was running the red light or he was, she's a young woman now that has to deal with, taking the life of another human being. Yeah.
Yeah. Tragic. Can I shift gears a little bit, but still along the veins of the law enforcement and that I guess just kind of your interactions with, in the community with the rise of e-bikes. Is that change anything as far as policing and safety, anything like that?
It's funny. We have a few e-bikes, but even so we have the downtown district and the downtown quarter has set bike officers who use bikes quite a bit to get around downtown. And then we use bicycles in our 4 different patrol divisions. We have 4 different patrol divisions that cover 250 square miles. And just a reminder, this is the 33rd largest city in the country. So we're not, it's sleepy old Pueblo. Yeah. This is a major city. Yeah. And so in each division, they have a fleet of bikes that then officers get trained to be able to ride. And then they'll go out and do overtime shifts in community engagement or go work narcotics or different things on the bike. So we don't really have a whole lot. In fact, I'm looking at picking up a few more because I want some of the staff to start doing some deployments, really from Park and Ajo down to about Grant, and I-10, that whole bike path corridor with the unsheltered population, sometimes setting up tents right under the bridge. It's really unsafe. And I do the full loop about once a month. And so we're going to be doing everything. Yeah. And so, the cops are wearing, 30 pounds of gear with their vest and their gun belt. And so the e-bikes become a really cool, force multiplier to help them not to have create this crazy high fitness. They're not cyclists. They're cops who are riding a bike to deploy. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be scaling that program. It is funny. I do see quite a bit of e-bikes on, people are 2 spaces with e-bikes, right? Like you're totally offended that somebody who's clearly not in good a shape as you passing you. And, you know,
they have a motor. It's okay.
I'm not in that camp. You know, it's like to each their own. Hey, if that makes them feel better about themselves or they have some physical limitation, I'd rather see people get out on the trail or out on the path. And if the e-bike is a source for that, then great. But it is funny, you know, there's occasion we'll be, you know, the group of 4 or 5 of us either doing the full loop or we're commuting over to Mount Lemmon. And you know, you'll see this, you'll see a guy on a bike who's, you know, maybe 10, 15 years older than you and maybe 20, 30 pounds heavier than you. And he's in flip flops and he's ripping like 25 miles an hour, you know, and then he wants to pass you like he's, you know, he's kicking your ass and you're like, look, dude, we all know you're on an e-bike. Like it's not that cool, you know, to pass somebody when you're on an e-bike. So, you know,
to each their own.
But I don't get, you know, I have plenty of other things to worry about in my life. I don't get too spun up about it.
Are the laws any different for e-bikers on the roads than they are with
it just depends on they're more most of the city code or the state laws are related to the gas power. That really the laws haven't, you know, it tends to, the laws take a few years to catch up to the technology.
Sure. Yep.
And so, you know, we all saw for years around town, everybody who had a DUI or the license suspended was ripping around one of these, you know, beach cruisers that had a chainsaw motor slapped in the middle of it.
Yep.
That's why you saw so many of those. So, but now you're seeing more and more of the e-bikes. So, you know, I don't think they're supposed to be on the loop. I don't think you're supposed to be, you know, I don't think you're supposed to go over 20, 25 miles an hour, 22. I can't remember what the loop, you know, pass speed is, but you know, some of the avid cyclists are just as guilty of going way too fast on the loop. Like they need to remember, like that is a recreational path for walkers, for people with kids and dogs. And it is a way for us to get across town to do another ride. And so we forget that too sometimes.
Don't hammer it so hard on the loop.
Yeah.
I think I remember you were on the bicycle patrol for some time. What was that experience like?
It was interesting. So the problem when you're on, you know, you go ride a bike up for 10 hours in this heat, you do not want to ride your bike on the weekend. So I probably cycled less personally when I was doing it for a living, but I did have a blast doing it. I did an operations division Midtown, which was where I was a brand new officer. I think my 3rd to 4th year. And then I was in that for about a year and a half. And then I moved from there back to patrol, then to motors. Okay. So again, you know, I traded a bicycle for motors, and motors is a whole nother challenge with being out in the heat and then having the heat between your legs all day. But I was old school motor back on the Kawasaki, you know, John and Ponch on chips.
I love that show.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Hey, so what do you task the bike patrolmen with? Like, what do they do?
The night, so they can do a variety of things. So like downtown, it's the perfect tool to quickly, you know, cover a lot of ground. So, you know, we put the city is invested, under, you know, the mayor's leadership and the city manager's leadership has invested a lot of dollars. We're on the way over. Like if you haven't been downtown for a second Saturday or gone down there to have food, like it's, you know, it's
nice.
Put us on the map.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's definitely,
I was a brand new sergeant down there working midnights. You know, 7 years into my career
before it was nice.
Yeah. So I take that deeply personal. And I tell you, when, the year I was gone at the 911 center, I did the tour that year and, my family met me down there and, you know, the planning wasn't great from a PD perspective. And there was some questioning whether or not the event was going to go. And I was like, there's no way it's not going. It's Tucson. You know, that's a Tucson.
They'll figure it out.
They're going to figure it out. And they did, and they always will. And it's such a great draw. But the interesting part was, you know, we are thin staffed. And so that was part of it. Planning was part of it. But when I did that race and I finished, and it finished that year at Armory Park, and my wife and my youngest met me down there, you know, there wasn't like one visible cop down there because they were all the cops we could pull together were at working point. Yeah. And it is I'll tell you, like, if you're a cyclist and you're doing L tour, every intersection, every time you see a cop, you need to thank them because one year I worked Congress and I-10, which is at the end of the race. By the end of the day, I hated everybody. I hated the motorists. I hated the cyclists. It's a
long day.
Oh, it's a long day on your feet and the fumes. And, you know, people 8 hours into it think that they're like in contention to win. You're like, no, I'm sorry. You're going to have to wait while I let these 4 cars go through. You're going to be all right. So, you know, it's one of those days you can't win with anybody. But I share that story and experience because I didn't see a police officer down there, and you got, you know, thousands of people down there, and you want, you know, that day is a good day for Tucson to be on the map. So we ended up going down to 4th Avenue for dinner. And then we came back downtown, to the Creamery for ice cream. Cause at that point you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
And,
put your work in.
And again, I didn't see one officer. So just when we had an interaction with an unsheltered gentleman who was, harassing my wife. And then there were some other, sketchy dudes by my car. I had to get my wife to load my son up on the street. And I just thought, we're not doing this. If I ever came back as chief, like this is not happening. And so the next year, I made chief. And guess what we did? We started planning 6 months out, and I made it really clear. So we had all the positions filled months before.
Yeah, cool.
I wanted high visibility. So downtown is also deeply personal to me. And, I go down there with my family on the weekends, to have dinner and socialize and do different things. So, the idea is let's be proud of the investment that we make, but it's like your yard, right? Mm-hmm. You can spend thousands of dollars on landscaping on your yard. And in 6 months, if you don't do any upkeep, it looks like crap.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing goes for policing and city investment, metro government investment in spaces. If it's not just the investment, but then you actually have to do the upkeep to keep it habitable.
Yeah. No, that's a good analogy. So that brings us to why we got in touch with you, was from Scott Rith, and it was regarding the Tour de Tucson. I don't know if he brought it up about Outdoors Magazine voted the Tour nation's best road cycling event, right? So, and from your, the law enforcement and policing of it, you're a big part of that. Right. So kudos and thank you for,
I appreciate
that.
It was a fun day. For me to be able to ride at the 66 as chief, and I had a lot of pride in all of the city staff who did the hard work to get the roads ready and put that race together. And then, of course, all of the local public safety, because it takes all of us chipping in. There's 11 different public safety organizations in this valley, and it takes us all that day to pull that race off. So talk about a fun day to be, doing what I love for a living, which is be a cyclist, or not for, being a police officer for a living, but also doing what I love for passion, which is cycling, and then being able to see my staff in intersections. It was like such a cool day where I was proud of my staff, proud of Tucson, and the roads are getting better. I like the route. I like the route we did this last year. And,
cool. Registration's open now. It's November 18th.
Yeah.
7,500 people.
The earlier you do it, the cheaper it is.
And if it
7,500
people. And if it feels super hot right now, don't worry, because on November 18th, it's between 49 and 72 degrees is what it is in Tucson.
It totally is.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Come on out and spend some time with us, man.
So the other thing that Scott mentioned was you're a big part of in the community, in the cycling community, and in Tucson overall, is the fundraiser that you do collaboratively with some other folks. And can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's just a Boys and Girls Club. There's a lot of organizations that put in. Gym Click is a big part of it, obviously. So there's a lot of local business that basically chips in, fundraises, and purchases bikes, and then we give those bikes out to kids in need. So we have double the poverty rate. I don't know that most people are really clear on that here in Tucson, but we have almost twice the poverty rate of the rest of the state and the rest of the country. And while again, city and county leadership are doing a great job of working on that, that's something that impacts all of Tucson, and we all have a responsibility to help our youth see that poverty does not have to be generational. And it's not a handicap, should you not want it to be, but sometimes, the kids just have to see a brighter future. So I'm actually in my third 3-year term on the Boys and Girls Club board.
Nice.
So I get to interact, and they're obviously super involved with this effort as well.
Yeah. So how can our listeners help there?
So first register for the race, right? That helps. And then, obviously they'll tour, they make donations to local nonprofits as well through your race funds. But then as a race gets closer, we'll be trying to do a better job of advertising where they can do extra donations and things. And another way they can do too is buy a bunch of secondhand warm clothes, because you're not going to have a friend there at 4 a.m. to gather them up, or 7 when the race starts. So what's cool is everybody can grab warm gear and basically use it the morning of the race, and then just leave it there, and then we'll collect that and give it to.
Oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah,
that's really
cool. That's super
folks.
cool.
Yeah, nice.
Very cool.
That before.
All right, can I pivot again?
Yeah, go
I
for
like
it.
to pivot.
Yeah.
I want to talk about bike theft.
Speaking of Pivot's got a new bike coming out, I think.
They do?
Saw it on Instagram.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I just picked one up
for his wife
from Dane's shop, the Guru.
Yeah.
His new shop. Anyways, bike theft.
Yes.
How's it going in Tucson these days?
We still have, property crime is way down. post COVID again, because COVID changed things. Yeah. A lot of people are working from home and remotely. So overall, our property crime in the last 5 years is down about 20%.
Okay.
Because people are home. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it is one of the benefits. I'd like to say, because I think our cops are doing a better job and we have better partnerships in prosecution as well. But I think it's mostly has to do with people being at home and it's harder to steal things, and Ring cameras and security cameras. So the best thing I can tell you is software technology. Ring is great, and you can actually give the police department access to that should a crime have occurred. We don't log into it like Big Brother. We just only ask you to go into it if a crime's occurred. So we solve a lot of crimes on public-facing cameras, a lot of fatalities, a lot of homicides, a lot of thefts. So I've got one on my house, so I know who's coming.
I've got one too, but I didn't know I could give you guys access.
You can. So if there's a crime that's being occurred, actually, or you can register it. You can register it, and then we'll know to come knock on your door or send you an email and say, "Hey, we're looking for crime footage from this time at this date, and could we have access to it?" But the big thing is you got to keep your bikes secured. Have pictures of your not your social security, your serial number. They should come with a social security number for what they're charging for these new bikes.
Good Lord.
Nice.
They don't even have an engine, but so know those numbers. A lot of times folks are going to try to do quick flips on Craigslist or some other social media platform.
Yeah.
But, the best advice is we watch the secondhand stores, the pawn shops, but if we have the serial number, we can register it. And then if they do try to sell it to a pawn shop, then the pawn shops have to register that number. And then we do searches to find those things.
Yeah. I was reading that like back in 2010, 2013 timeframe that you guys were looking at doing some type of voluntary bike registration and actually had like a system built to do that.
We did make a run on that. I tell you, that didn't work as well as we thought it would. The best way is still just good old fashioned, have your serial number. And if theft occurs, I mean, there's obviously new technology now with air tags and different things that you can track it. You can track your bike. Yeah.
There's a million different ways to hide an air tag on a bike these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got my Ring camera after I was not smart about my kid's BMX bike, and it was easy. Just grabbed it in a couple minutes, and it was gone. But I have a Ring camera now, so I don't know. At least I can watch him take my bike.
Well, I know. At least we'll be able to find it. We're really good, and so is the county, tracking down in Oro Valley, Marana on, like, if we have a video or a photo, our cops are really good about knowing who folks are out there and who are committing crime. But what I'll tell you is it's not just, and being secured means not just in your backyard.
Yeah.
So if somebody can peek over your wall and see a bike, it's no big deal for them to hop over. And dogs are not as much as a deterrent. The one time I've been burglarized in the house I'm in right now, been in there 13 years. At the time, we had a ferocious looking 90-pound crop deer Doberman who was home.
It's a big scary dog.
Yes,
right?
it is.
With a big dog door that they used to, like, doggy door, to come right into our house and rob us. So, dogs can be a deterrent, but on somebody who's a professional thief, it's not a big deal for them to work that way.
I was encouraged when I called the pawn shops just to see if a purple Sub Rosa BMX showed up, and they said, no, we hold our bikes for, I forget what they said, X amount of time. Yeah. We clear them with TPD. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You guys got in the background.
Yeah, so we do. Yep. No, they're good partners.
And it works. I had a Ellsworth stolen out of my garage. The wife, when she was pregnant, left the garage open. And I think maybe 3 weeks later, they found it at a pawn shop.
Yeah.
And the weird thing was I'd already gone through my insurance, and my insurance was like, and you guys called and said, hey, come pick it up, and called my insurance. I'm like, you guys already paid me. What do I do?
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't pick it up. It's like a $10,000 bike. And they're like, tell them to donate it. So I called you guys and said, give it to Goodwill. And like all my buddies were like going around to all the Goodwills.
Looking for it.
I don't think it made it out. If it made it from the shop, I don't think it made it to, into any of the retail stores.
That's a good example of, it doesn't matter if you live in Vail or Sahuarita or Marana, Oro Valley, city of Tucson, inner city, is that it's crime of opportunity. Yeah. It's just like, well, I just had it out and I was just going to go do this one thing. And, the next thing you know, you come out and your bike's gone.
Yeah. What the sheriff told us was that the bike thieves like kind of know where the high-end bikes are, and they just drive around looking for open garages.
Yeah.
And they just, we got high-end bikes here.
Take seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife doesn't leave the garage door open anymore.
Yeah. You were stoked because you got a new bike. But.
Yeah. Same exact bike. Arizona Cyclist. I just bought the exact same
right
bike.
On.
Speaking of bikes, so you mentioned your kind of go-to bike nowadays. So can you tell us about that setup?
The wife put the foot down a week or two ago. It was like, okay, you got 4 mountain bikes. That's ridiculous. And I was like, I'd like 7, you know, I mean, if I had more garage space. And she was super pissed because in the summer I have the habit of leaving my bikes in the house, and like we're in the dining room that we never eat in. So it doesn't really bother anybody. So I don't know what the problem is.
I don't either, man.
Yeah, but
I'm with you.
But, the sealant goes, right? Like bakes it,
yes,
you know?
That's true.
So I'm just like,
you're
hey,
saving the sealant.
I'm saving the sealant. And, you know, would you like to go sit in the garage all day without air conditioning? So,
it's my baby.
Yeah, exactly. Look, you know what we pay for these things, because she does, you know, I have direct deposit, and she does a checkbook. So there's I basically have to ask for an allowance. So there's no tricking her when when I'm getting a new bike. But yeah, so I decided, okay, I was on a stump jumper for kind of my chunky bike. And then I'm an avid single speeder. I have been since Gary Fisher created them, and back then when the technology sucked and the geometry was horrible. But I was, you know, back then we ride 29er single speeds, and people would look at us like we were crazy, like they were e-bikes. And so I always have a single speed, and then I always have a full suspension bike. So I was in Sedona last Memorial Weekend. We always do. There's about 20 families that go up and camp and do 2 rides a day for a couple days straight, and that the bike was and I'm not, you know, I'm certainly not as fit as some of my friends who are getting ready to go race Leadville. So you're always looking for that advantage. And I thought, man, I just don't need all this travel. I'm watching these guys on these Epic Evos, Specialized Epic Evo, and they were doing just fine. So I promptly came back home and ordered one before I sold the stump jumper. So it all worked out. I ended up giving my buddy's son a really good deal. He just got out of the military on a stump jumper. So he's super pumped.
Yeah.
And then, so I basically right now I have the last year, I think it's a 2019 hardtail carbon stump jumper frame, when they were still calling them stump jumpers, as my single speed that I picked up new used after I snapped my Crave frame out at Sedona. The year before, I only had my single speed, and everybody's like, you can't ride a single speed in Sedona.
I've done it.
It was promptly a challenge, so I did ride it, but I ended up breaking the frame.
Did you change the chain ring though?
Yes.
Before you went up there, to get up a little easier.
No, you know, I'm a run what you brung, so I like a little stiffer cadence.
Okay.
So I'm 195 pounds, 6 feet, so I like a slow grind versus a fast spin.
Okay.
Yeah. So I tend to run a little bit stiffer gear, but then so I ended up just picking up a stump jumper. I'm sorry, the Specialized Evo, and then I promptly had to get my son one too. So it was like double whammy.
So you had to buy 2 of them.
Yeah, thank God I found his used through a buddy's friend who bought one for his wife, and she rode it twice, and it wasn't for her. So
we keep talking about that.
Got a smoking deal. So yeah, Deegan's rolling his first carbon Evo, so he's pretty pumped.
Nice. And you noticed a difference though, as far as how fast the bike was?
I like the pros. You know, I try to, you know, if it seems like if you're on that 2-year mark, flipping bikes, you just, it's the sweet spot. You still lose your butt on them, even if you get a good deal on it. But that's not why we're in this, right?
No,
but you know, at the 2-year part, you're, you know, other than changing brake pads and tires, you're not getting into
suspension,
big changes of having to send your suspension off and all that good stuff. So for me, I've always found that's a sweet spot, but it is, I have to say it's they're hard to compete with because they spend so much money on their engineering. But this bike is amazing. Yeah. It's the Pro, and it's
What's the Grupo on that?
It's SRAM. It's a SRAM Grupo. Okay. So I think it's X. Is it XX?
XX. Is it?
It's one step below the.
Is it wireless?
It is wireless.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually like the SRAM shifting better, the wireless than a Shimano, but I like Shimano brake products better.
Have you seen so do I. Did the same thing. Have you seen the new Shimano that they just came out with in the last week?
No.
It's a automatic drivetrain.
I've heard about it, but I have not seen it yet.
Yeah. It shifts for you, man.
That's crazy. So it feels attention.
Yeah. But like when you coast, your front cog is spinning. Whoa. Wrap your head around that.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny last night? It's funny you say that. So last night I'm like, I haven't charged the bike. So I'm on my, I have an Athos Specialized road bike, and it's got Ultegra products, Shimano Ultegra components. But so on the road bike, you have to plug it in. You have to plug the bar in versus what I like about the SRAM products is they have the batteries, right? Yep. but I was just chuckling. So I've got my bike plugged in, I've got my, Wahoo plugged in, and I've got my light plugged in. And I'm like, what a world we're living in. You've got 3 different, USB cords running to your bicycle.
And it's not an e-bike, right? I mean, it's still an acoustic bike.
It's just, yeah. You just want your shifter to work when you're going up Mount Lemmon.
Chad, do you run the radar system that Garmin has?
No, I'm a Wahoo guy. In fact, after Leadville, I was so burnt out on technology, like the ride, like so many rides based upon back then heart rate. Now, obviously it's done by watts.
Yeah.
And I didn't use a heart rate monitor for like 5 years, or didn't have any kind of technology. I used Strava to track everything but you wouldn't see what you were doing until after you got home.
Yeah.
So I'm coming out of that and back to it. One day when I grow up, I'd like to get an S-Works road bike and have a power meter on it and all that good stuff. But $14,000 price point's hard to choke down.
That's like a car.
You can go buy a KTM 450, which is the sweetest, 450 they make for less than that. So I just have a hard time wrapping my head around how they can justify that cost. But
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Hey, Chad, you got any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, I guess it hasn't been an easy couple years post George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd for public safety. What I like to tell our troops is, this is our time to define our profession. It's always been a noble profession. It'll continue to be. There's certainly bad police officers that do bad things, but they're a minute percentage of the workforce that's out there that is here and dedicated to keep our community safe. So. TPD, for example, responds to about 400,000 calls for service. We have over 1 million contacts.
400,000 calls?
Yeah, we have over 1 million contacts with the public a year. We average about 8 officer-involved shootings a year. So 1 million contacts, 8 of our highest level use of force is 8 to 10, and we use less than 1,000 reportable incidents of what we call reportable uses of force incidents. So what I would tell people is the media doesn't pay to put things into context. They pay to sell airtime. And so if you have a question about police use of force, whether local or national, do the homework. Don't just listen to what you see on whether it's Fox News or CNN or local media. You have to do your homework, be educated about it. And what I tell people is, pre-George Floyd, post-George Floyd, or even going back further, Ferguson, which was 8 years ago, police departments across this country are built around a 9-month training curriculum. 9 months. So in 9 months, we take people who might still be living at home, who have only driven a car for 2 years, who have never been in a fight, have never fired a gun, and we teach them constitutional law, state law, city code, proportionality, lawful authority, all the 21st century expectations of police use of force that surround things that they have to know. We teach them fitness, because a lot of these kids who are sitting in front of a computer all day, every day, their fitness, they're morbidly obese when they start the academy. We have 4 months to get them into shape to pass Arizona post-cert for certification process. So what I tell people in this country is, if we want different outcomes from our police officers, it doesn't come with 9 months of training. So it's just you have to be, if you want to be a licensed plumber or electrician, it's 4 years of trade, right? You go to Pima College for 2 years to get an associate's degree, and then what do you do with that? Right. So if we want different outcomes from police, that comes not actually with not defunding, it comes with investment in training. And so I'm super passionate, also having a 19-year-old son that's getting ready to join the Army, that, SEAL teams, that go out and keep our country safe. They train 90% of the time. They deploy 10% of the time. Oh, wow. We deploy 95% of the time, and we train 5% of the time. So that just goes to, we have such amazingly dedicated young women and men in our organization who are out there every day learning, keeping the community safe. There's a lot of OGT. It's high risk. And we give them 9 months of training. We put a camera on their chest. So my challenge to all the listeners is, next time you see something, you're like, wow, that doesn't look good. Well, if you strapped your cell phone and you turned your video on when you left your house tomorrow morning, and it rolled all day, would your kids and your spouses be proud of you of everything that you did?
Good perspective,
right?
Sure.
And so, I'm in a really cool job where I get to give perspective to community, to our officers, and sometimes it's giving perspective to the other side. Just like you've heard some of my stories today, policing is my profession, and I'm passionate about it and honored to continue to lead this organization. I mean, never in a million years did I think I'd be the chief of the police at a major city police department, because there's only 70 major city police departments in this country.
Right.
And we're one of them. We're in the NFL of policing. And so to be the chief and to have that responsibility is a huge honor, but I'm trying to use that to, elevate mental health and wellness in our organization. I'm converting all of the golfers to cyclists is my real goal. The running joke in the department, which isn't too big of a joke, is you have to, drink carbonated water, have a go bag, and own at least 1 or 2 bikes to get promoted. So they're catching on to my tactics, but
sounds pretty healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So look for me out on the road. I'm out there. I'm out mountain biking, and or if you see me in uniform, come by and say hi.
Right on.
Well, we love Tucson, and thank you for all you do to keep our community safe.
Yeah.
You and your all of the force.
You and the entire department, man. We really appreciate it.
We had a busy weekend with those monsoons that rolled through. Doubled our call load on Friday, Saturday night. So yeah, and the troops just got out there and got it done. We had 20,000 houses without power, dark intersections, and just to keep things in perspective, from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 in the morning. I'm sorry. So yeah, from 9 in the morning till 6 in the morning, I basically have 2 squads out in each division. So you could have 5 to 10 cops out in each division, and just imagine the magnitude of that storm rolling through 20,000 houses without power.
Oh my gosh.
And so they do amazing things every day. So super proud of them.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, thanks for coming and spending some time with us.
Right on.
Appreciate you.
See you out on the trail.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thanks.